makers, I thought it would be fun this 4th of July weekend to do a very quick video on Distress Spritz using one of the stamps that I wanted to use for my decor this summer. So I purchased from Honeybee Stamps this Land of the Free stamp, and it is a big background stamp. It has all kinds of wonderful patriotic words and symbols and images and things like that in it. I really loved this when I saw it as part of their release. And so I wanted to do a quick video where I'm not making the whole project because I'm going to make a decor piece with this, but I wanted to use Distress Spritz since I haven't done a video using the spritz yet. And so I thought this would be a great chance. So to do this project, or at least the parts that I'm going to do today in this short video, I have 4 pieces of A2 sized Distress Mixed Media Heavy Stock. I have spray stain in prize ribbon, fire brick, and antique linen, and then I have my 2 Distress Spritz in barn door and uncharted mariner. Now, you may be wondering, well, if you are using Distress Spritz for today's technique, why do you have Distress Spray Stain out? And that is because I want color on my background and not just pearl shimmer. So the spritz are kind of like a finishing spray, but the main thing to know about Distress Spritz is that it is a clear liquid. There is no ink or colorant in the liquid. The only color you're going to get is from the actual mica pearl that is in there. And these colors of mica pearl are unique to the Distress Spritz. And that's because they were hand mixed by the chemist at Ranger, and they went over many different mixes to get the right color once it was dry. This mix is the one that closely matches the barn door Distress products. All right. And then for this one, it is the Uncharted Mariner. And so it's got that kind of teal, dark, bluish pearl color. And again, each one of these that were released are distress colors of pearl. I want a shimmer on my project, but I want an underlying deep color underneath, and so that's why I have my Distress Spray Stains, because you won't get that if you just use the spritz. Make sense? So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to begin by coloring my paper. I'm going to be doing some embossing because today for this background we're going to use one of my favorite techniques that I learned from Jennifer McGuire many years ago, and I always go back to it. I absolutely love it. So let's get started making with our Distress Spritz today. I started by taking my mixed media heavy stock and spraying some antique linen Distress Spray Stain on it and some water, and then drying it. Got my Land of the Free stamp on my platform. I have my papers colored, and so now I'm just going to put them on here. And let's see. I think if I put it right there. Yep. Okay. So I want to be sure that I don't get it anywhere else. I have my rabbit hole designs. Brush to get the powder all over it. That's probably too much, but you know, I'm not the best embosser, so I cannot find my big embossing ink. So I'm just going to use this little one and try and get it all over the stamp. You know, sometimes you just have to make do with what you have. So I went ahead and covered the entire stamp with that little bitty embossing ink cube, and then I stamped it onto my antique linen paper. And there I am covering all of that embossing ink with fine detail clear embossing powder, and now I am going over it with my heat tool and melting that so that it's set. Now I have 2 of them. I did 4, and so I took 2, and I wanted to show you there are 2 ways to apply color to this. And so one way is to use a blending tool and distress inks and just work that color in for this, the darker the color, the better, because then your embossing is going to really resist that ink and it's going to show up really well. So here I am applying red and blue ink to the papers that I have. And you can really see that embossing showing up. You do lose some of the detail of the embossing when you do this, but I think it's worth it for the way that the technique looks. I absolutely love it. So I'm just making sure that I have it nice and dark. And now I'm showing you another way that you can do this. You get two different looks when you do it this way. So this is my Distress Spray Stain in the red and the blue. And so I'm covering that. Now both of those need to dry. And I'm kind of letting it soak in a little bit, making sure that it's nice and dark. And then I let it dry just for a little bit. Then I took my Inky Binky and I wiped off some of that excess off of the embossing and some of it that was puddling up a little bit so that we can move on to the next step. All right, so I have my spritz ready to go. I've been shaking them, and I tend to shake them a lot of times with the nozzle headed down because I have found that sometimes the clogging happens up in this area up here, and I will find a lot kind of around the neck here. And so I encountered a problem with my yellow one that way because I was storing them on the side. So see, you can see that there's some on the neck of this one a bit, and so I always kind of do it upside down so I make sure that that shaker ball gets in there and really gets that mixed up. Okay, and now I'm gonna just spray some where the blue is, and it doesn't have to be a lot. And then where the red is. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to set it aside to dry a bit, and before I do the next step, I will go through and I'll edit where there is heavy pearl on some of them. I'll go ahead and edit that a bit in the same way where I just pull some of it off. The majority of the pearl will stay behind, but it will keep it off of that embossing. Okay, you get the idea, right? So I'm ready for the last step. So these are dry, and this is my wool ironing pad that I got off Amazon. This is just printer paper. I have a couple of pieces here to protect this. If you don't have an ironing pad, if you're doing this on your ironing board or something like that, just put a little, either a clean cloth or paper down or something to protect it. I don't use my regular iron when I'm doing this. I have, this used to be my regular iron, but this thing's at least 20 years old. And so I got a new iron for my clothes, and I brought this one into my craft room. So I have this in here ready to go, and it's all heated up. So I have another 2 pieces of printer paper that I'm going to be putting on top. Now, if this was just a pattern, like a background pattern stamp, and it didn't have words in it, I would use another piece of plain mixed media and put it on, and then I would get a twofer. Okay, so when I reheat this with my iron, this embossing is going to melt, and then I would make another, I would have an opposite print. But because it has words on it, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to iron it off. So I'm putting this over it, and I have my iron on hot, no steam. So, and I don't have any water in this anyway because I don't usually steam anything, but I do have the steam off. And then I'm just going to go over and I'm going to run the iron over it, and I'm reheating that embossing powder and melting it. and then the paper on top is soaking it up. And like I said, if it was just a pattern or something that could be reversed, I would probably use another piece because I like to get two furs out of this, but this background just is not going to work for that. Now look at how it has soaked up into that first piece of paper, and then, oh, look at that. Every single time I do this, I am amazed. It is gorgeous. I love the way that the flat antique linen is just in the middle of all of that beautiful pearly shine. It's gorgeous. And I just love the difference between the two. I think it really makes the words and the symbols stand out. Now, this is the one that I did the ink blending on, and so you can see that actually the words are they stand out a lot. This is the one that I use the ink spray stain on and then the pearls. And so the stain soaked in, and I think that on those areas where it really looks very cool and distressed, actually. I do love this look. You can see that they're two very different looks because it looks like the ink soaked in under some of that embossing, really distressed it a lot. But I do love this one. And this first one with the blending is what I was going for, but this is a really cool look too. I just don't think you can go wrong with either one. It's just a matter of what you want your background to look like. Well, I hope that you enjoyed our little tutorial on using some Distress Spritz in this manner for this background. And if you have any questions, as always, please ask in the questions or in the comments for this video or on my blog at playswellwithpaper.blogspot.com. I will be more than happy to try and answer them to the best of my ability. And if you want any of the products today, those are in the description for today's video. So thanks for watching, and I want to wish you a very creative day.